Marriage and intimate relationships. Marriage and intimate relationships is a part of the life cycle, and adjusting to it plays a pivotal role in our daily lives. Chapter 10 introduces this topic and goes into detail about how the union of two families are formed, the changes in the familial hierarchical structure over time, why parents decide to divorce, as well as different types of gender relationships. This chapter covers the following topics: challenges to the traditional model of marriage, deciding to marry, marital adjustment across the family life cycle, vulnerable areas in marital adjustment, divorce and its aftermath, alternative relationship lifestyles, and understanding intimate partner violence.
The traditional model of marriage. Marriage is commonly known as a legal union between adults. This particular union comprised of economic interdependence, common residence, sexual fidelity, shared responsibility for children. Although marriage is seen to be ideal and of great importance to many, it must be noted that the amount of people who enter into this legal union is on the decline, and there seems to be changes to the traditional model of marriage, and this is due to factors such as increased acceptance of singlehood. The view that people should get married and have a family at a certain age is slowly changing, making more individuals feel comfortable to wait a longer period before entering into marriage. Increased acceptance of cohabitation. Many people still view unmarried couples who are living together as unacceptable, but it has become more socially accepted now than it was some years ago. Reduced premium on permanence. A great number of people still have the thinking that marriage is a permanent commitment between a husband and a wife. However, more and more people are starting to see that they do not have to stay in the marriage if they do not meet their needs. Transitions in gender roles. Over recent years, there has been many changes to the typical gender roles of the husband and wife. While this is seen as progress to some, with the changes also come the chance for conflict to arise between spouses. Increased voluntary childlessness. There has been a great decline in the number of married couples who choose to have children. Many in recent years have preferred to go childless or to put off having children until a later date. Decline of the traditional nuclear family. For a very long time, the nuclear family seemed to be the ideal family type which everybody strives to achieve. And although many people still believe that it is ideal in modern times, this is not representative of the society as a whole, because there are many different family types which have emerged and society is very accepting of it. What stood out? The amount of changes which took place over the years to the traditional model of marriage. A lot of things that were looked down upon are now accepted. Many people have come out of the traditional thinking that you should be married by a certain age and that you had to be married before you live with someone with whom you share sexual intimate relationship. The fact that people are going into the legal union of marriage and have the thinking that it can end whenever they want, if the needs are not being met, compared to long ago where marriage was seen as a lifelong commitment. People no longer view being single, being lonely and frustrated. Misconceptions/preconceptions. I was of the belief that the changes to the traditional gender roles would bring equality and decrease the amount of conflict within a marriage. However, after doing research, it is actually not the case, as it could actually cause conflict in a marriage. Behavioral modification. As a young adult growing up in a religious Caribbean household, I was taught the traditional model of marriage. I was told that I had to get married and have a family, and divorce was heavily looked down on. Because of what I was taught, I would pass judgment to other people who did differently. But after reading, I now see and understand that many people may have other things they want to achieve before they look to settle down and start a family, and that the traditional model of marriage does not allow for that. Therefore, I would now try my best to stop judging people who do not follow the typical model of marriage.
Cultural influences on marriage. Experts estimate that up to 80% of the world's cultures have arranged marriages. This practice is declining in some societies, especially in urban settings, as a result of westernization. However, arranged marriages by families remain common in cultures high in collectivism, such as those in India, Japan, China, and West African countries. In fact, a study conducted in India found that love grew over the years in arranged marriages, whereas it declined among couples who married for romantic love. Another study found that Indian couples in arranged marriages living in the United States reported higher marital satisfaction than U.S. couples who married by choice. Do you often wonder what makes two people choose each other among all available candidates? Let's look at some specific factors which influence a person's choice of a mate. Many characteristics such as physical attractiveness, intelligence, humor, honesty, and kindness are rated highly by both sexes. Women choose their potential partners based on socioeconomic status, intelligence, ambition, and financial prospects. In contrast, men consistently show more interest in their women for their youthfulness and physical attractiveness. Compared to men, women tend to place a greater emphasis on warmth, loyalty, status, and less of an emphasis on vitality and attractiveness. People also tend to marry others who are similar in race, religion, and social class. This is a phenomenon called endogamy. And then there are those who marry others with similar personal characteristics, which is called homogamy. This can be seen applicable to Trinidad and Tobago and by extension the Caribbean, where this behavior is often promoted by cultural norms and by the way similarity fosters interpersonal attraction. Number 1. Family background. The marital adjustment of partners are correlated with the marital satisfaction of their parents. According to research, people whose parents were divorced are more likely than others to experience divorce themselves due to a divorce cycle which involves more negative and unresolved communication. Number 2. The age at which one marries are also related to the likelihood of marriage success. Couples who marry young have higher divorce rates due to immaturity. Research shows that people who marry later may have a more carefully selected mate and are more likely to have a successful marriage. Number 3. Longer courtships, and this may allow couples to evaluate their compatibility more accurately due to being able to learn their partner's attitudes and values that promote marital stability. Number 4. Premarital communication. Communication and close relationships, which include self-disclosure and acceptance of what is learned through disclosure, are likely to be more satisfying and successful over periods of time for couples. 3 things that stood out for me. Number 1. Arranged marriages are actually reported higher in marital satisfaction and long-lasting relationships. Number 2. Homogamy is also associated with long-lasting and more satisfying marital relations. Number 3. Family background plays an important role in determining marital success between a couple. My preconception was about arranged marriages in collectivistic cultures such as India, where I was taught to believe that arranged marriages were a bad restriction of freedom of choice and that most arranged marriages will end in a divorce. However, based on what I have learned from this topic and given our extremely high divorce rates, research is illustrating that arranged marriages result in higher marital satisfaction. Based on what I have learned from this aspect of deciding to marry, family background plays a crucial part in the success of a marriage. I will be married soon, and from my basic understanding, I need marriage to be a union between two persons which involves love, communication, and learning your partner properly. What this research has definitely opened up my eyes to is new knowledge in that I will be more considerate and careful in learning how to properly resolve conflict among my family members which will be living in the same household, because this definitely plays an important part in determining the success of any marriage.
Marital adjustment across the family life cycle. This subchapter of Chapter 10 starts where the young adult begins to distance him or herself from their family, get into a relationship, and get married. It follows with married life and then all the adventures of the family relationship with children at different stages in life. The chapter then closes with the loss of loved ones, grandparents, parents, as well as new familial roles, and the cycle starts again. These subtopics are between families, the unattached young adult, joining together the newly married couple, family with young children, family with adolescent children, launching children into the adult world, the family in later life. The 3 things that stood out to me were the unattached young adult, launching children into the adult world, and the family in later life. The unattached young adult. In this stage, young adults are becoming independent and detaching from their family. They are going through a transitional period in which they are between families until they form a family of their own through marriage. In recent years, it would have been noticed that the marriage period has been prolonged. The postponement of this stage could be the result of women being given the right to an education, as well as women being able to work and explore new career fields. In today's society, we are seeing more couples getting married in their later 20s or early 30s because they want educational and financial stability before forming a family. Launching children into the adult world. In this stage, young adults are finding their way in the world and asserting their independence with minimal help from their parents. It is a lighter stage for parents as their parent-child relationship is more stable and comfortable. Launching children into the world today is a more trying process than before because of the increased cost of living and decline in the job market. Additionally, issues such as separation and single parenthood can force the young adult back into their parents' home. When young adults leave home, the parents sometimes go through empty nest syndrome, which affects mothers more than fathers. Traditionally, mothers only had the maternal aspects of their lives and nothing more. In today's society, mothers are significantly more versatile. They are always finding things to occupy themselves with because the world is much more advanced and has a lot to offer women now as compared to decades before. Also during this time, parents begin to refocus on their marriage while still caring for their parents or coming to terms with the death of their parents. Family in later life. Due to the post-parental period, couples have more time to devote to each other. In this stage, older couples acknowledge having children or grandchildren, memories, and traveling together as being gratifying. Unfortunately, with age comes aches. These older couples will begin to experience physical decline, which can account for dissatisfaction in their relationship with respect to leisurely activities. Having gotten this far in life, they will also face the loss of friends, family, and loved ones, even their spouse. Here is why I chose these subtopics. The unattached young adult. This first stage stood out to me because this is where I am currently at as a young adult. I relate to wanting to become independent of my family financially by being employed while pursuing my education. Launching children into the adult world is another subtopic that stood out to me because it resonated with me in a way. Again, being a young working adult currently pursuing tertiary level education, I am witnessing and experiencing firsthand the hardships in today's society. It is unfortunate to think that when I am ready to be married, I may be living with my husband's family because of the financial challenges posed by the high cost of living. Preconceptions or misconceptions. I was under the preconception that by the preteen years of children, parents would start to work more intimately on their marriage, not when their children are young adults. What will I change? I will work on building my relationship with my partner from now, so that after getting married and having children, we will still have open lines of communication and understanding through those times.
Vulnerable areas in marital adjustment. When couples in relationships take the next step to get married, a range of challenges can begin to arise. With the marital adjustment, marital conflict can occur, such as arriving at acceptable role compromises, financial issues, miscommunication, and raising a family. Several negative consequences for spouses and their family members are associated with negative issues in a marriage, which can lead to increased depression, alcoholism, physical health issues, domestic abuse, and divorce. Both couples experience issues, but successful marriages rely on the willingness of couples to deal with their issues. Gaps in role expectations. The husband is usually expected to serve as the main breadwinner, make important choices, and take care of certain household duties, while the wife is supposed to raise the children, cook, clean, and follow her husband's leadership. More women are aspiring for employment in recent decades, but it is a challenge because men are still seen as the ones with the superior profession. While there is a substantial increase in men's household duties, wives take responsibility for about 65%, while husbands do the remaining 35%. Research suggests that when some women have non-traditional views about gender roles and when they work outside the home, these women are more likely to view their share of housework as unfair, which contributes to lower levels of marital satisfaction. Couples in which the husband plays an equal gender role have greater levels of marital satisfaction than those in which the husband has more conventional attitudes. Financial difficulties. Without money, families fall into financial worries and can increase hostility in husbands, increase depression in wives, and lower marital happiness in both husband and wives. There is a higher chance of separation and divorce by wives when the husband lacks job security and has lower paying jobs because it is seen as a source of marital strain. Arguing over money and differences in spending habits regardless of financial bracket can also lead to marital conflict. Inadequate communication. Communication is a highly ranked source of conflict for long-term married couples because the ability to communicate emotions and how to handle conflict when it occurs is associated with better marital adjustment. Research indicates that unhappily married couples 1. Find it difficult to convey positive messages, 2. Misunderstand each other more often, 3. Are less likely to recognize that they have been misunderstood, 4. Use more frequent and more intense negative messages, and 5. Often differ in the amount of self-disclosure they prefer in the relationship. What stood out to me on the vulnerable areas in marital adjustment? Equal gender roles create a long-lasting marriage. When the husband and wife both have jobs and do an equal amount of work at home and spend time with the children, both spouses feel a sense of overall satisfaction and balance in the marriage. Lack of job security leads to divorce. There is a higher chance of separation and divorce by wives when the husband lacks job security. Communication or the lack thereof can make or break a marriage. Communication between both spouses are important when it comes to decision making, resolving arguments, and becoming a closer family. My misconceptions and/or preconceptions. My misconception was based on how I thought all wives view non-traditional roles in a marriage. I thought that all women would have preferred to have an equal split in shared roles between careers and household work. However, this has not been the case with 1/3 of wives. The division of household work is unfair to them because they do not expect or want a 50-50 split. My behavioral modification. As a young adult who may get married one day, I now have to consider how crucial my career and communication skills play in the outcome of a marriage. Therefore, before considering marriage, it is important that my partner and I consider all aspects before taking the next step because I do not want my marriage to end in divorce.
Divorce and its aftermath. What is divorce? Divorce is the legal dissolution of a marriage, leaving the partners free to remarry. Typically caused by the culmination of the gradual disintegration of a marital relationship, divorce is brought about by the accumulation of interrelated issues, which often dates back to the beginning of the couple's relationship. The effects of divorce may significantly influence well-being, with many individuals experiencing depression, loneliness, and isolation, self-esteem difficulties, or other psychological distress. Parental divorce also has been shown to have negative consequences on the psychological adjustment of children and adolescents. Deciding on divorce. Factors leading to the decision of divorce include lack of commitment, infidelity, miscommunication, and domestic violence. The decision to divorce has been shown to be a result of shortcomings, which typically takes place over several years. Hence, an action of divorce is the result of a process much rather than the outcome of a single occurrence. Adjusting to divorce.
The negative effects of divorce on the psychological well-being of individuals are quite similar for both men and women. However, evidence have shown that whereas the health and mortality of men are affected, women appear to face more financial disruptions and difficulties. However, although the economic consequences of divorce can be more severe for women than for men, in this era of two-income families, many men also experience a noticeable financial decline in their standard of living after going through this distressing period. In turn, factors associated with favorable post-divorce adjustment include maintaining social connections such as one-to-one relationships, as well as having a supportive group of friends, gaining a sense of forgiveness toward the ex-spouse as it is associated with an increased sense of well-being as well as reduces depression. Additionally, evidence suggests that developing a greater sense of self-compassion is synonymous with reduced levels of post-divorce stress. Effects of divorce on children. The effects of divorce on children vary based on a complex constellation of interacting factors affecting the individual child. However, negative effects can be long-lasting to the emotional and mental well-being of the child well into adulthood. Divorce can have profound effects on children that can last well into adulthood, as seen by many researchers. The age of children at the time of divorce can predict the nature of the effects they will face. Hence, having a supportive post-divorce family is crucial for the adjustment of children. Negative effects of divorce on children. After a divorce, children typically tend to display the following behaviors: depression and anxiety, aggression and withdrawal, distractibility resulting in lowered academic performance, reduced physical health, and precocious sexual behavior and substance abuse. Positive outcomes of parental divorce for children. On the flip side, researchers have found many adults who had the experience of parental divorce as children experienced the following positive outcomes: enhanced personal growth, better life management skills, more realistic relationship expectations, and enhanced sense of empathy. Having covered the topic of divorce and its aftermath, 3 things that stood out to me were: number 1, the presumption by wives regarding the chances of their marriages resulting in divorce appears to be more reliable than the judgments of husbands. This is as such as findings have shown in relation to the fact that the majority of divorce acts are undertaken by wives. Number 2, as a significantly stressful experience, divorce can lead to personal growth and positive changes in the self. Additionally, there is statistical evidence of individuals experiencing higher rates of autonomy and job success post-divorce. And number 3, the effects of parental divorce for children varies from child to child. Notably, factors such as age, coping resources, and adjustment prior to divorce differentiates the type of effects experienced, as well as the severity of its influence during their adult life. Prior to having covered the topic of divorce and its aftermath, I had been aware of the immediate negative effects that are projected by children, resulting from the experience of parental divorce, as well as the long-term manifestations that arise during adulthood as a form of coping with the childhood trauma. Behavioral modification. As stated in the definition, divorce is the result of an accumulation of interrelated issues in a marital relationship. Hence, I believe through active effort that it can be prevented. As a young adult who looks forward to having a marital bond in the later future, I can actively communicate as well as have a greater sense of empathy towards the perspectives of my partner, particularly in those moments where our opinions may be differing. By doing so, both my partner and I will be able to better resolve issues in our relationship as a couple, thus eliminating the accumulation of unresolved differences further into our commitment towards each other.
Alternative relationship lifestyles focusing on gay relationships, cohabitation, and remaining single. Gay relationships. To keep things simple, we have kept our focus on persons who seek relationships with individuals of the opposite gender. These people are called heterosexuals. We have been ignoring a group that can be considered a minority, homosexuals. This group consists of men and women who prefer to have emotional sexual relationships with individuals of the same gender. Contrary to popular belief, the majority of homosexuals prefer to have stable and long-term relationships. Same-sex marriage. Homosexual partnerships is something that has been called morally wrong over the years. Gay couples in most states of America are not able to identify with a legal union by getting married. They are denied economic benefits like joint tax returns that married couples are offered. The rights of gays has raised major political issues that affect the homosexual group psychologically and socially. People have argued that gay marriages would erode traditional family values. However, research has shown that this is not true. Comparison to heterosexual couples. In comparison to heterosexual couples, gay relationships do evolve in a different social context, but research has shown homosexual and heterosexual relationships function similarly. The conflicts in homosexual partnerships and their patterns of conflict resolution is somewhat similar to that of heterosexual couples. The relationship of gay couples is said to be briefer and more prone to breakups. Gay parenting. Many people in homosexual relationships were left with the parental responsibility of their biological children from previous heterosexual marriages. The number of gay couples that are opting to have children in the context of their gay relationship has been increasing. There seems to be little to no difference between the children of homosexuals and heterosexuals and the way they grow up and adjust. Research has shown that the children who grow up with homosexual parents do not seem noticeably different than the children who grow up with heterosexual parents. Decades of research indicates that the quality of child-parent interactions is much more important to a child's development than parental sexual orientation. Cohabitation. Cohabitation refers to living together in a sexually intimate relationship outside of marriage. This practice is illegal in 4 states: Florida, Michigan, Mississippi, and Virginia. Cohabitation rates have always been higher among individuals who are less educated and have lower incomes. Some theorists see cohabitation as a trial marriage or some sort of courtship process, while others see it as a threat to the institution of marriage. Individuals cohabitate for practical reasons such as financial necessity, convenience, or meeting household needs. Remaining single. People are made to believe that until they find a partner in life, they are incomplete in some way and hence have failed to marry someone. There has been an increasing proportion of young adults that are choosing to remain single. This does not mean that the institution of marriage is being turned away. One contributing factor is divorce rates. The stereotypes that single people are put into do a great injustice to the diversity that exists among those who are single. 3 things that stood out to me were the 2 preconceived notions persons are said to have about people who choose to be single, the fact that research has shown heterosexual couples and homosexual couples to have the same kind of impact on their children, and cohabitation being illegal in 4 states. The misconception I have had about gay couples raising a child was that the home would not be stable for the child. After reading this part of the chapter, I have a better understanding now that homosexual relationships and heterosexual relationships are equal in terms of overall quality, satisfaction, and level of conflict. I already have the preconceived idea that gay couples face a hard time in society with regards to their rights. I knew that homosexuality is something that is frowned upon by many, and therefore it will be hard for persons belonging or identifying with this group to have support. I will now be more understanding towards people who decide to have an alternative relationship lifestyle outside of cultural norms. This part of the chapter was very insightful as it showed that we need to be more open to understanding the impact this has on families. The traditional family lifestyles are becoming less common in modern life, and we need to start exploring the ideas of alternative relationship lifestyles.
Intimate partner violence. Partner abuse. Intimate partner violence. This is when one partner portrays aggressive, abusive behavior to the other partner. Usually occurs mentally, emotionally, physically, or sexually. Incidents and consequences. Approximately 24 people every minute experience some type of abuse by their partner. Although women mostly fall victim to abuse by their partners, there are many instances where men also fall victim to abuse. Partner abuse is not limited to married couples but also occurs within the cohabiting relationships, both heterosexual and gay. Individuals who experience abuse by their partners are likely to develop anxiety and depression. Characteristics of batterers. The main reasons why people may engage in violence towards their partners are unemployment, alcohol and drug abuse, easily angered, high levels of stress. It must also be known that many abusers have either been abused themselves or have witnessed abusive behavior which they later imitate. Abusers can appear to be very jealous and insecure in relationships. Why do people stay in abusive relationships? Contrary to the popular beliefs, many people do in fact leave abusive relationships, but that does not take away from the fact that there are also a great number of people who stay. Some of the main reasons why people tend to stay in abusive relationships are lack of financial stability, fear that if they leave it could end in their partner becoming violent which could lead to their death, no place to live, feeling of embarrassment due to failure of their relationship. Date rape. Forced or unwanted intercourse with someone you are dating. Incidents and consequences. A great number of people believe that rape is committed by strangers. However, actually most victims are raped by people they know. Victims of rape are likely to develop anxiety, depression, and even thoughts of suicide. There is also the chance of unwanted pregnancies and sexually transmitted diseases. Contributing factors: alcohol, date rape, drugs, gender differences in sexual standards. Protecting oneself from rape. Be aware of the amount of alcohol one is consuming, as overconsumption can make one unable to make clear decisions and they may not be able to have control over themselves. Try not to leave drinks unattended or accept open drinks from people who you do not have relations with. When going on first dates, always agree to meet somewhere where you know there will be plenty of people. If going out with friends, look out for each other and do not leave them. Make it clear to your date your intentions and expectations for the date. What stood out? It was very shocking to learn that 24 individuals per minute are said to be faced with abuse from their partners. A great number of men are faced with abuse from females, but the attention is mostly focused on the abuse which is committed by males. The amount of effects rape has on its victim. Misconceptions/preconceptions. I was of the belief that most rape victims were violated by strangers. However, this is not the case, as majority of the people who are raped know their attacker. Behavioral modification. After learning how serious and frequent date rapes occur, I realized that I was not following the proper behavior to avoid it happening to me. So I would definitely be practicing the steps to prevent it from happening.
Marriage and intimate relationships are unions that everyone may experience in life, but with these important decisions come trials and tribulations in the form of these major 7 discussion points. Overall, each topic gave insight into the challenges that both men and women face when transitioning from being single to marriage, including when it leads to divorce, new relationship lifestyles, and how all these factors affect the entire family. This topic has educated us with a better understanding of what to expect in relationships, how to cope, and come to an understanding with issues, and when to leave when our lives become endangered due to partner violence. The topic Marriage and Intimate Relationships were presented by Ravita Sidru, Jamelia Jackson, Daniela Sidano, Chandani Harilal, Tia Gill, and Selena Ali.